So this happened a few months ago. I worked super early shifts around 3 a.m. to 8 a.m. at a store. Since I didn't drive a car at the time, I was left to walk about 25 minutes to work like 5 times a week. I always try to stay wary of everything around me, especially since I don't live in the best area and almost got robbed by a few guys on bikes at night, literally a couple days after this happened. I normally play music with my earphones on. So I was walking down this little dark cutaway as I hear rustling in the bushes beside me. I just pass it off as a bird or a squirrel or something and keep walking. That is until I see a figure crawling up from out of the bushes, out of the corner of my eye, and just freeze up as his pitch black 6 foot something silhouette stands up and stares at me with illuminating eyes. This figure holds a huge tree branch taller than the both of us in his right hand. He does nothing, so I try to pass it off as normal and just speed walk away while taking out my earphones to be more alert. But when I go to cross the road, I realize that he is now following me at a distance. I try to evade him by crossing another road, making turns, etc., but he doesn't give up, and he continues to follow me in the pitch blackness of the night. Finally, I get to this small hill, and you never guess what's up there. A police car. You don't understand how relieved I was to see two female police officers looking back down at me. They started trying to ask me questions, but I'm sure I looked super shaken up as I was signaling that the guy behind me with a huge tree branch isn't someone I know. They finally realized and pointed their tasers at him. He stopped in his tracks. They approached him and asked him questions while I crossed onto their side of the road and headed home. Not the most interesting story, but I thought I'd share. On a side note, this was during a week where I almost got robbed by guys on motorbikes with knives a few days after this incident, and where a store got robbed and I saw guys fleeing with cash registers in their hands a couple days prior to this. What a crazy world we live in. This happened a few years ago while I was in my last year of university. I was studying abroad in a Latin American country. There were about 12 students total on the trip, all between the ages of 19 and 22. On our second day, we split up into smaller groups to explore the old town area. We did have guides on this trip, but they gave us an hour or so to explore on our own. So the four of us, myself, a 21-year-old female, Katie, another 21-year-old female, Justin, a 20-year-old male, and Brian, a 21-year-old male, all went to get a drink as soon as we were free from the bigger group, as students that age tend to do. After one drink, we left, and on to exploring. On our walk, a couple, maybe early 40s, started making small talk with us. They spoke perfect English, but were telling us that they were locals. Red flag number one, as most locals there don't speak English very well, let alone without a strong accent. I'm pretty trusting by nature, and was in travel mode, so I didn't catch it until later. The couple starts asking us about how our time has been and how long we were there for, and etc. Then, since we're making small talk, I mentioned I'm looking for a specific souvenir, and they both immediately jump on it, trying to be helpful. They say they know this great little bar, and they'll buy us all a drink, as well as tell me where the best place to get my souvenir is. We oblige and follow them to a bar that doesn't look very tourist friendly. We go inside and they buy us all around. And then the woman became very pushy about getting me to go with her to get the souvenir while the group stayed with her husband. I asked her if she could just give me the directions or the name, but she insisted on showing me herself. Looking back, I'm not sure how I didn't find them shady yet, but I was a bit tipsy and was excited to be in a new place. But Katie and Brian both looked concerned the whole time and barely touched their drinks. Finally, when the couple got up from the table to get another round for me and Justin, Katie said, "Guys, I have a bad feeling. I'm putting down cash for the drinks and we're leaving." I was confused, but went along with her. The couple got upset and started asking me to stay alone so I could follow them to the souvenir place. And that's when it hit me. They were trying to liquor me up and get me alone with them in an isolated place. We got out of there fast. Luckily, we never saw them after that. But we were worried the entire rest of the trip that we might run into them again. Glad I had someone with common sense with me while mine was taking a back seat. To the couple who I'm pretty sure were trying to kidnap/rob me or worse, let's not meet. I moved to the city in December and haven't had any incidents up until now. I've always had pleasant conversations with strangers at bus stops or on the bus, but today changed that. I had a man come up to me asking to get to a certain location. 4 different buses frequented this particular stop. I helped a woman with the same thing a couple of weeks prior, so I asked him where he was going so I could pull it up on my phone and see what bus he needs to get on. He was taking my bus, and oh man, I waited 10 minutes with this dude. 10 very, very long, uncomfortable minutes. I was in the bus shelter on the bench because it was windy and cold that day. Mind you, I'm a 21-year-old woman who looks 16, while this guy is 30-something. We wrap up the conversation about what bus he needs to get on, but he keeps talking to me for some reason. Not weird usually, though this guy is getting closer and closer to me. That's when I realized he wasn't the normal chatty kind of fellow. He starts bumping up against me, his shoulder pressing into mine. I can feel his breath on my face. I move away. He moves closer. I move away, and I'm very uncomfortable because he's backing me into the shelter corner. He doesn't come closer after that, thankfully, but he keeps touching my shoulder a lot throughout our entire interaction. He starts talking about good and bad people who talk to you on the street. I think he can tell I'm uncomfortable and was trying to convince me he was the good kind or something. But I've talked to all kinds of people, lots of homeless people too. They're all good. You were just a motherfucking creep. It was really freaking me out. He seems so fixated on his talking point, the idea of a good and bad person. He starts to then ask where I live and saying we should be friends and hang out at my house. Oh, hell no. I said I was always working, and he tried to ask if he could hang out with me before or after work. I wasn't saying anything he wanted to hear. So he asked me if I have a boyfriend. I said yes, which in truth I actually do. And he starts rambling about pretty girls, how girls seem to keep to themselves around him, how pretty American girls always are so rare to get, and how he keeps he keeps not understanding the fact that I have a boyfriend, and then goes on to say how hurt he is that I have one. I'm now standing outside of the shelter. I'm not in there with him anymore. I'm on the curb begging for the bus to come. He just keeps rambling and touching my shoulder every now and then. I just smile and nod, staring down the street looking for the bus to show up to save me. He knows I'm uncomfortable. He keeps mentioning it, yet he still persists. Just the worst kind of person. Finally, the bus arrives. I take a seat and he sits in the seat across the aisle from me. He keeps talking about pretty girls and my boyfriend and asks me for my phone number. I just straight up tell him no. I know I can't get off at my house because I'm scared he'll stalk me. I get off a couple stops down at the Fred Meyer because at least if he gets off with me, I can go into the store and tell someone to call the police. When the bus stops, he asks if it's our stop. And I say, no, this is the store. If you just ride this bus all the way down the street, you'll get to where you're going. Thankfully, he stayed on the bus. I walked home from there. Creepy guy at the bus stop. Let's not meet again. Please.